Welcome to another episode of the Football Fun Factory podcast. I'm Luke Chadwick, joined as always by James Cutting and Jonny Martin. To start the podcast, I'm going to spin the wheel to see who's going to be the judge this week.
James.
Hope and pray it's not me.
No.
James Cutting.
Come on then.
Fantastic news.
Long time since I'm in the judge. Donning the wig, not going to wear the gown. As Luke said in the last episode, it's even hotter this week than it was last week.
Crazy.
So I'm not going to... this heat wave is really kicking in now. So I'm not going to wear the judge's gown.
You can see the tan. The wig go... I mean, you look incredible.
Thank you, mate.
Incredible.
Cool. I'm going to spin the spinner and ask a question. For those that haven't watched before, for any new listeners, then we're going to have 3 questions. And there's going to be 3 points. And we'll see who's got the most points at the end of the game. 3 questions about children's football coaching.
What happens if you get the most points?
If you get the most points, you are the winner.
What do you win?
You win immense pride.
Cool.
We've had that one before, so I'm going to tick it round to the next one. How can we inspire the next generation of football coaches? Luke Chadwick.
Oh, good question. I think the word that I'd use is opportunity. I think there's so many people that have got a huge passion for football coaching, but maybe there's not enough opportunity for them out there to really turn it into a career or something. Obviously, as a parent, a lot of parents get drafted in to do grassroots coaching, but I think as a younger generation, I think we're losing out on coaches that are absolutely brilliant at a certain point because there's no longevity in it for them in terms of, obviously, we've all had our own experience of working as a coach full-time at a professional football club where it's brilliant to start with, you're absolutely buzzing, but then the demands of what that looks like gets a little bit too much. Probably the reward financially isn't as good as a number of other industries and people drop out of coaching. So I think to inspire the next generation of football coaches, there has to be more opportunity
to make a career out of it.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly
What
that.
would be yours, John?
Mine is developing a love for sport and football in the younger age groups and the younger generation, because I think that if we want to inspire children to stay involved in football, many drop out at 13, 14 because they're not having fun anymore. So I think the biggest thing that we can do to inspire the next generation of football coaches is keep children loving football, playing football until they get to 16, 17, 18 into men's football, because therefore it will mean that more children want to be involved in the game and coaching is then a viable route for them.
Interesting. So inspire the players to want to continue to progress from a player to a coach.
Yep.
So two different views. I'd say that I agree with both. The question is, which one is deserving of the first point of the round? So Luke.
Obviously mine.
Disagree.
Wasn't expecting that.
I'll be the judge of that.
Good catchphrase.
Thank you. So, look, you talk about opportunity within the game.
Enter Football Fun Factory.
Enter Football Fun Factory. But before Football Fun Factory, all 3 of us worked within professional football club and had full-time roles working at that level. So then surely that demonstrates that there is opportunity in the game, right?
No, I disagree with that completely. I think, like, in terms of the amount of full-time coaching, the amount of opportunity for someone to work full-time in football, I think is so slim, and there's so many people that want to do it. And I think in terms of when we talk about creating better footballers from the youngest ages, in terms of right at the top level for then the England team to be as strong as it possibly can be, I think it requires more professional coaches for that to happen. But much more importantly than that, having more professional football coaches will give younger people a better experience in terms of what they... And don't get me wrong, there's loads of absolutely brilliant work that goes on in grassroots football, but at the same time, a lot of quite poor practice as well, where it turns into a guy at the side of the pitch just shouting to kids what they're doing wrong, telling them exactly what to do, when then it all falls down a little bit. I think to have more of a pathway for coaches, for more opportunity, so it's not just within a professional football club, there's more and more avenues for young coaches to see, look, there's a pathway there, this can be a a life career for me.
Do you know of any such opportunities?
I know one at this moment in time within the Football Fun Factory. And I know a massive sort of reason for the Football Fun Factory existing is that very reason, because obviously we've worked in the professional game, we've worked full-time as coaches and seen that there isn't much opportunity. There's massive challenges to give passionate football coaches the opportunity to do what they love and earn a fantastic living doing it. And I think obviously we offer that because we're really passionate about both children having a fantastic experience, but also a pathway for young football coaches or older football coaches. But probably other than that, there isn't a huge amount of opportunity.
Agree, yeah. So for those people that don't know, watching, listening, Jonny, Luke and I all worked within a professional football club environment. Absolutely loved it. There were some great bits. There were also some real challenges, and we had long working hours, low pay, challenging conditions, lots of time in the office and then heading out to the evening, which made our days 9, 10, 11-hour days. And it's a very tough industry to stay part of for a long time. I think you do it as a passion because you love the game, but then you get to a point in time where that just becomes unsustainable. Quite often at the point when you then life moves on a little bit and you get a mortgage and you get married and you have kids, and quite often people are dropping out of the game because there just aren't those opportunities from a financial perspective and from a work-life balance perspective to stay involved with the game. Jonny, tell us more about your point.
So just first and foremost, I agree with Luke's point in that that's a massive driver for me and the Football Fun Factory in providing those opportunities for coaches. I think in answer to the question and in the debate and trying to get a point, because obviously that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
I think my answer is far better than yours, Luke.
Oh,
disagree.
Because there are lots of opportunities for people to coach football. Mm-hmm. Grassroots clubs, there's loads. They're always looking for more grassroots clubs. I think there are quite often a lot of people that are shoehorned into under sixes, under sevens. They go, oh, can anyone take this team? And then someone begrudgingly puts their hand up. And I think that could be solved with my point of getting people to fall in love with football, getting people really excited about being able to then be a football coach of the future, keeping more people in the game so that therefore there's not some dad or mum at the start of the season going, yeah, I'll do it if I have to, if it means that we can put this experience on for the children.
But how are you, obviously, I completely agree with what you're saying in terms of that.
Thank you.
Like sort of falling in love with football, playing football is very different to coaching football, where it's two very different things in terms of one's playing it, you fall in love with playing it, and others coaching. How does that happen? Like in terms of how do you fall in love as a coach without coaching at a younger age? What does that look like?
I think my journey, I can only reference the journey that I've been on. When I was growing up, I fell in love with playing football. I fell in love with football. So therefore, as I then got older and I realised I wasn't going to play for Man United or Reading or Stoke or Norwich or Barrington, I wanted to stay involved in football. And then I looked at other opportunities to stay involved in the game. So I was looking at how can I get involved in maybe being an agent, a scout, a coach, a referee, and then I chose to go down the coaching route. The reason I went down that coaching route is because I loved football. So I think that's where there's a massive drop-off, where so many children don't love football.
Why did you go down that? Because what you're saying is that's what you want to happen. You want everyone to be inspired throughout their football journey, love it, stay in the game, be a coach. So that's what you did. Mm-hmm. Why, in your opinion, aren't enough people doing that?
Because a lot of children stop playing football at the ages of 12 and 13. If you look at the statistics,
because of a lack of opportunity?
No, there's loads of teams. In fact, that's the biggest challenge that a lot of sort of local leagues have, is being able to field enough teams at those age groups.
Okay, guys.
Because there's not enough coaches.
Whoa. Hold your horses.
There's not enough players.
Okay, right. Time's up.
Players.
Time's up, guys. So, I'm going to do something unprecedented on the Football Fun Magic podcast. This has never happened before. So, I'm not going to decide who the winner of this week's point is. You're not going to decide, and you're not going to decide. I'm going to go behind the camera to Super Ollie Kane, who is capturing this magical podcast, and all I need is one word from you, Ollie. So, either Jonny or Luke, who is the winner of this week's point?
Luke.
I completely agree.
So why didn't you just do it?
Well,
then,
no,
James?
just because I wanted to give the power to
Hold
all.
on.
Okay, so
There's only one winner there, Johnny.
So what? Ollie has quite rightly identified that Luke's point is absolutely spot on. Whilst there are opportunities to inspire more people to want to become football coaches, the biggest reason I've not gone with Johnny is because actually there's an absolute flood of football coaches when there's opportunities within the game, of which there are plenty, like you said.
Within paid roles, though.
Yeah, hold on.
Sorry,
John,
I'm
stop
just really disappointed.
sulking.
I'm not sulking. I'm
You
just
just
disappointed.
lost a point. I'm sure
There
you
we
win
go.
the next one.
Oh, really? There are plenty of football coaches that want to progress in the game. It's the opportunities that are then holding them back. Therefore, Luke is the winner of the first point. Okay,
Just quickly.
Yeah.
The question was, how can we inspire?
Don't influence my decision on point 2, John.
Good point, one made. Please land the same. Perfect.
Opportunity.
Your best moment as a football coach, Johnny Martin?
This is a little bit different. There was a lad at Cambridge United that I coached. He was a top player, doing really well, and he was struggling a little bit at school. And what I did as part of my role at Cambridge when I was there is I actually went to his school,
Brilliant.
sat in one of his math lessons, and he was doing stuff around working out the perimeter of shapes. Classic. And he was really struggling with it, and I sat down with him, and I then said, right, imagine that you're marking out a football pitch like you do sometimes when you get to training early, to doing your steps, and he was then counting the squares and counting the steps, and it sort of was a bit of a breakthrough moment in his math lesson from linking back to football. And although it's not necessarily related to being on the grass.
The question.
What, like last time, Luke? The last round.
But no, ultimately you're his football coach, and that's
so for me,
yeah.
I use football as a vehicle for child development, which is what I'm really passionate about, and I then took hold of that opportunity to then educate that.
Absolutely first class. I love the fact that your best moment as a football coach has kind of nothing to do with football, because it is, like you say, using football as the vehicle. That's the passion, and that's why it's then transferable across the rest of that young boy's life. Luke, trump that.
No, it's a fantastic answer, and says a lot about Johnny as a human being in terms of taking a turn and going, no, it's fantastic to hear that. Mine, no, I'm being serious, deadly serious.
It's just a little bit condescending.
No, I didn't mean to be.
Oh, okay.
That's the way I come across.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, don't apologise for being
apologised to
Johnny.
me.
I'm really sorry for being condescending. I mean, for me, that is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, this is more condescending now.
I don't know how I'm
The more
coming
you
across
say it, the
like
worse
this.
it gets.
Just feel like I'm getting attacked.
What I'm trying to do is kill time, because I don't really know what I'm going to say at the moment. But I think for me, it's a bit of a strange one. And it goes back to my early days as a Football Fun Factory head coach, franchisee. And I've spoke about this before, and it was my first ever time. Johnny was there. I was at Barrington Village Hall with a group of 12, I think there's 12, you probably won't remember, there's about 12 children there from 2 to 3.5 years old, and it was my first ever tot session, and I was so scared. I was so happy to have Johnny there as a bit of moral support, and all the children turned up, and I was thinking, I'm so far out of my comfort zone here. I've never ever done anything like this before, and I just remember sort of setting up the session, telling Johnny what it was going to be, and Johnny like, Chad, they're like 2 years old, they're not going to be that worried about exactly what the session is, and like put the session on, and no part of the session went how I expected it to, but there was something about delivering that session and the smiles on the kids' faces, and probably something that sticks in my mind just as much is the smiles on their parents' faces as well, their mums or their dads that were there with them, and feeling sort of part of what was probably one of their first ever experiences in football. They were doing it with their parents, and I was sort of putting on that programme. I was part of it, and I felt so, and I don't often feel proud of myself, but felt so proud of myself for for doing something like this, but also proud of being part of that child's first experience of football. So that would have been my best ever experience as a coach, I think.
Wonderful. So I think what's really interesting is that both of you who have UEFA qualifications in football coaching, you both have incredible experience working within academies, and you've been on European tours. You've played against some of the biggest and best academies in the country. Luke, you've had a playing career and seen those experiences through as well into an academy setting. But both of your experience, we're now talking about a child's maths lesson, and we're talking about toddlers running around a village hall. And I think that's so telling of how the power of football coaching and the experiences it can bring to a child's life. To decide on the point, though, what we're going to need is for you to dig into each other's answers. So starting with you, Luke, I think you need to ask some really probing questions to Jonny.
Yeah, but obviously it was a brilliant answer, and sort of the fact that you've taken the trouble to go into a child's math lesson, sort of work with them on the diameters or like the shapes and that you was working on. The only question would be is the fact that it's not football coaching per se.
Yeah, I see your point. However, I was employed by the football club to support the children as a football coach, and ultimately what it was doing is his attitude and application in school was affecting his football. So I took that upon myself to go and coach him, support him. I didn't intend to go in and give him loads of advice with regards to his math lesson. Far from it. I just wanted to be there to see it all pan out so I could then help try and educate him beyond that to help his football. But like I said, it's one moment that stands out for me that I'm quite proud of myself in that I managed to help someone beyond just the football pitch. But for me, that is what being a football coach is. It isn't just on the grass. It's creating that warm welcome, creating that environment, helping them away from the grass as well. So,
Life skills over football skills.
Above and beyond. Give him the point.
I need to get the point. I need to get the point.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give Jonny the point then.
Cool.
Above and beyond.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
From the condescending words of Luke Chadwick, Jonny, it's 1-1.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Cool, let's go to our decider then. So, third and final question. Let's hope it's a good one. We're going to go to Jonny first.
Ooh.
One thing that you would change about the football coaching industry.
Got a couple of answers in my head.
But one thing is what we're looking for.
Oh, okay. I'd probably go with the outcomes from just the outcomes in general. So the fact that in the football coaching industry, the outcome is to try and get children to become professional footballers. And because that is the focus and that is the sort of the nature of the beast, that is the outcome.
Cool.
It then negatively impacts so many different things.
So less focus on one outcome and more focus on a variety of different positive outcomes.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll dig deeper into that in a second. Look, what would you change? One thing about the football coaching industry.
Coaching qualifications, I would make them much more accessible so loads more people have the opportunity to do some. I'd probably change some of the sort of lessons and what's learned, so it is more around sort of every child having a fantastic experience within the game. But I think more qualified coaches making that courses that are available and accessible to all grassroots clubs. I don't know how that would look in terms of people going in there to support the learnings of them. But I think if we had more qualified coaches that were all going about things the same way, we'd see more positive experiences throughout football, throughout grassroots football.
Really interesting. I'm sure you both agree with each other's points. Like Luke, I can imagine that you completely agree that there should be some a variety of different positive outcomes other than just signing your first professional contract. Jonny, I'm sure you agree that there should be more opportunities for coaches to access.
Yep.
We all see the tweets and whatnot.
Yeah.
And people going, I've finally got onto my UEFA C or whatever, UEFA B, and I've been trying to get on this course for 4 years, and finally the FA said actually you can get a qualification. I'm sure you both agree with that. To decide the winner, though, of this week's podcast, what we need to argue is that one is more important than the other. So, Luke, can you ask Jonny some questions and stress the importance of your point over Jonny's?
Just tell me exactly what to do, Joe. So could you just go through your point again real quick, sorry, just to get the finer details of it?
Yeah, so I think because of the football industry, and the fact that ultimately you're trying to get 3 points on the weekend and it's sort of make or break, and that's what it comes down to, that really negatively impacts the coaching industry, and the fact that coaches are judged upon getting players through into the first team, and that then negatively affects so many things.
So that's talking about, obviously, sort of real development football within a professional academy environment to get people...
I think that then extends also through to grassroots, in that the nature of the beast in football, the fact that a lot of parents, a lot of coaches in grassroots will still care about the result beyond anything else, I think that then creates loads of negative experiences.
And do you think that comes down at any point to sort of education?
I think that a lot of people are really highly qualified, and I think that there are people that have gone through their UEFA A licence, Advanced Youth Award, and then still they are restricted or impacted negatively by the industry itself. So from my own personal experiences, I'm quite a fun coach, even when I was back at Cambridge working in academy football, and I think if you spoke to a lot of the children and the parents that I worked with during my time there, I think they'd say that I was probably one of the more fun coaches. However, the journey that I saw myself go on, because ultimately at the end of the season I was judged on within my performance, within my role, is how many children I then got progressed through the system. So that then made me negatively change and coach.
On that, Joe, obviously we know that less than 0.012% of all children who play football go on to become a Premier League pro. The thing that helps people be in that 0.012% is a laser-like focus, and we've had this conversation before, is that absolute obsession with trying to do that. Mm-hmm. And then what you're saying is less focus on trying to do that. How do those things balance?
I think you can still, for me, a child that is destined to go on to play at that very highest level is destined to do it. I think they've got the talent level and also the passion for it, and I think they will often get luck along the way, but unfolds to getting there. For me, with such a small percentage going through, that's the worst thing about the coaching industry, is that we're judged on that 0.012%, whereas actually we should probably be judged on what happens to the other 99% as well.
Do you think there's a chance that... Sorry, Luke. Do you think there's a chance that more people, or the percentage would be higher if there were more outcomes? So you're talking about there being a positive, there being more outcomes in terms of a focus on that? No.
So that's the nature of the beast. That is what my sort of point is the fact that the outcome is, because there's only so many places or available opportunities and so many people are going for it, is that it creates this really negative journey for so many people, for 99.9% of children and people going through that experience. So that is the nature of the beast. That is the worst thing about football, because that's the industry. And it is cutthroat, it is really difficult. So I think you can do all these brilliant things, but ultimately at the end, that is the result, and there isn't really a way to change that, because that's football. Cool. Whereas for me, to sort of put you on the stand a little bit, Chaddy, I think that I've seen so many talented football coaches that aren't the most qualified. I think there's so much stuff out there now where things are for free. You can check out my channel, Coach Jonny FFF, little plug. But there's so much stuff out there that people can learn from each other, steal from each other to add to their coaching. And of course, I think coaching qualifications should be more accessible, but I don't think it is the worst thing.
But good point. I think that is like in terms of if it was all completely ripped up the rule book, it was all completely different. And you mentioned there, you was talking about how, like, I know you are a really fun coach. You were at Cambridge, all the kids loved you, but felt like you come away from that because it was about getting a certain amount through to the next stage, whatever it may be. If that wasn't the case, and if the education of of coaches was completely different, where it was all about, even whether you're a grassroots coach in the academy environment, it's about children falling in love and staying in love with football. You mentioned there, and I completely agree about, I think the kids that make it as footballers, I think we take a little bit too much credit as coaches sometimes that they have a successful career because
you think they were destined to
they're destined to do it. They've got the ability. The coaches are there to facilitate them doing it, but just let them fly, let them carry on. But I think if it's more about sort of the other stuff that you learn within football, if we try and obviously we're tens of thousands of years away from this, but it's not failure when you fall out of that elite system. There's something to fall into, and the coaches, because like you know it, I know, like when you're releasing a child at 14 years old, you feel awful, don't you? You don't know what to say, and you're speaking to their family, and to take all that away, because the coach's education, the child's education of sort of what this is completely different. There's going to be 1,000 kids at the academy. There's probably going to be 2 that ever play professional football, and the experiences you get along the way. And I think by sort of changing the way that coaches are educated, so we're all singing from the same hymn sheet to a certain extent, would be a really positive change within football.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's 2 really, really strong points, and I'm going to sum up now to decide on our winner today. I think that we quote the stat very, very often, the less than 0.012%, just because it's so compelling, isn't it? It's mind-blowing. There's a statistical fact that you're more likely to be hit by a meteorite than become a professional football player.
I can't quite work my head around that, but I've seen that,
And amazingly,
the thing is, both happen to me.
You literally
makes a lot of sense.
You can see what
I was about to say exactly that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Maybe one led to the other.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
So, I think I completely agree with both. I think the really compelling thing today for me was when Jonny was asking about qualifications, backed up the point that it is really important to be able to access those qualifications. And it's a crying shame when there's especially grassroots volunteer football coaches that want to take on a qualification, pay the questionably extortionate fees to be able to do them, and still can't, and be told that there isn't an opportunity for them to do that. I think that's pretty crazy. However, the fact that there are so many brilliant either level 1 qualified coaches or even unqualified coaches out there, and we've witnessed that firsthand. We've seen people that have come to coaching observations and become a franchisee at the FFF. I think it's pretty amazing, really, that people become so good, and the reason they become so good is because they're so focused on the brilliant outcomes that are in the game. And therefore, the winner of this week's podcast is Jonny Martin.
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
We're going to go to everyone's favourite part of the Football Fun Factory podcast, Jonny Martin. Luke Chadwick's questions.
Nice.
My question for you this week, Luke, would be, if you could make a qualification for football coaches, what would the title of it be and why?
Making football fun.
Ooh.
With lead tutor Sir Jonny Martin. I think it is, like, obviously we're incredibly proud of what we do at the Football Fun Factory in terms of what our sessions design look like, the way we try and engage and inspire the children through football. And I think, like, in terms of those youngest ages, it is all around making it fun. And I think still we can be sort of trapped in a bit of a time zone where you sort of walk across the park, see a under-7 session going on and the kids are queuing up, waiting to take a shot. And I think having more education around that, and maybe like a qualification to sort of give coaches ideas. I know Jonny does it a huge amount on his social media channels, but to have something official, because I think coaches like to see that the work that they do, they're getting recognised through it, and the sort of education that they're trying to obtain. So I think the football qualification I'd love to see is something around making football fun.
That sounds absolutely class.
Maybe we should do it, guys.
Maybe we should do it.
Maybe.
Cool. My question, Luke, is obviously you've been on so many different coaching qualifications and you're very well qualified. Is there a tutor that stands out for you or is there a moment that you've experienced on your qualifications and on your journey to becoming a coach that really stood out for you as a standout?
Yeah, I think the standout coach, I went through the sort of process of doing a number of football psychology sort of courses. I was going like doing loads and loads of courses, but they're the ones that probably stood out to me, and worked with a tutor called Keith Mayer, and he was like a fantastic guy, huge experience in the game, worked for a number of clubs, and sort of listening to his sort of point of view, which is sort of quite similar to the Football Fun Factor in terms of it's about falling in love with an activity is what helps you progress in it, and then if you don't progress to the point that you want to get to, it's still something that you love because you've built that real sort of like a real hard love for it over a period of time. So I think the psychology was something that interests me because I think it is more about the brain than sort of any other sort of technical tack. Without that sort of psychology and sort of able to sort of teach yourself to do something, it's hard for the other stuff to come with it. So I think they were the best and most powerful courses that I've done from a football point of view.
Nice.
We could sit here and ask you questions all day, Luke, but
really?
Unfortunately, we need to wrap up the podcast for today. And I've already got my question for next week, so I can't wait to ask. I'll say it. Thank you for listening to this week's Football Fun Factor podcast. We'll see you again soon.